Welcome, everyone, to episode 22 of the Bunker Talk. I'm so excited to have Nicole Carlon with me from Wise Oak Wealth.
Yes.
She is a wealth advisor there, and we're going to talk all things having to do with wealth. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to also get to know you more. We're both members of the Daily Drip, which we've had several members of the Daily Drip on the pod and of Miss Esquire. So
yes, there seems to be a lot of overlap between the two.
Yeah, it's because they're both great communities for women. They really are. And you know, it's funny because they're different.
They are.
Even though there is overlap and there's supporting women, it's different. Miss Esquire is more focused on business referrals.
Oh yeah,
which is great. I need those, right? We're all here to grow our businesses, but the Daily Drip is a little bit of everything, I would say.
And it's more community. You feel you can be more open and stuff. So
yeah,
definitely.
It's great.
Love both. Yeah.
Both of them are so great.
Yeah.
Tell everybody what you do. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So formally, I'm a wealth advisor, but I technically like to call myself a financial GPS.
Oh, I love that.
I think it's the easiest way to explain it to people because when someone comes to me, they basically tell me what their current financial situation is, what family challenges or life challenges they have. And then we talk about what their goals are in life. You know, where do they want to go? So I get the point A and I hear about where point B is. And then we kind of chart out a route and we say, okay, this is the best route using tax strategies, investment strategies, estate planning methods, and we're not tax advisors, we're not estate planners, we can't do the documents, we can't file your taxes, but we do work with those professionals to help you get the best route. And because life is not linear and things happen all the time, you get married or you get divorced or, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm so excited, I planned for one baby, oh no, it's twins.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that happen in life that are so unplanned. Sometimes we completely change careers.
Right.
So, yeah, exactly. So kind of like traffic, you know, suddenly there's a traffic jam. Okay, we need to reroute you. And your goals also change.
Yeah, you don't abandon the plan. You just reroute.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes your goals change.
Right.
So we just kind of adjust the plan. And the beauty is we use technology to kind of have it as an always updating plan. You know, the platform that we use always has your accounts linked. So you see the daily balances change, which means so if I know that like if you suddenly took a big withdrawal, okay, well, that may change your plan 20 years down the road.
Right. That's, you know, it's something that's so critical, right? And I think that there's a misconception when it comes to what you do that it has to be people with money. Right. That's your services are only for people that have so much money that they don't know what to do with it or that they need to like avoid taxes. Right. That's not the case anymore. Right. The average person can and should get the guidance to help
really should
plan out, like you said, for not only life but your goals. And also we're living longer.
We are. And I run my cash flows until age 100. And some people live beyond that. You know,
That's wild.
I had someone who only passed away last year and he was 101.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
And so we do need to plan for that longevity.
Right. And what a difference too. What you do is so important because of that, right? Because not only of the misconception of, well, that's just for people with tons of money.
Yeah.
No, if anything, the average American needs it more because they're living longer.
Oh, yeah.
Because the emergencies that happen that we don't have the endless cash for, right? Like we need more of the planning when we're not the millionaires.
Exactly. And sometimes when you look at these things, you see things that you're not utilizing that actually could help you.
Right.
One of the things that I enjoy doing, especially for younger professionals, is when they go into, let's say, a corporate America job and they get all these employee benefits and they're really utilizing them. And there's things that could give them either tax savings or benefits for their children that they're just not taking advantage of because they don't understand it.
Right.
And so part of what I do is I sit down with them and I look at all of this and I say, okay, you kind of want to maybe consider this, let's discuss it with your accountant. Let's discuss it with your attorney and see how that helps you down the road. And I have had clients that have had significant savings, not necessarily from some big investment, but just from something so simple as putting more money into their 401k and paying less in taxes now and looking for when they retire and that they're at a lower bracket and then they pull out the money then. So it's just a simple strategy. But again, everybody is specific. So one thing I don't like to do is just give such a general recommendation.
Right.
I really
It's customized.
It's customized to my client.
You're almost like the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
In between all of the professionals, because I know you, like you said, you involve the accountant. I know there's attorneys involved, insurance people, right?
Yes,
You guys make not that you make recommendations, but you refer them to make sure that their insurance, is in line too. Because I've had experience in that field, and it's critical. It's critical that you understand the entire picture, right? You can't just be segmented to the financial aspect. You need to know everything. It's, and I think that's why people avoid it too, because it's almost maybe a little embarrassing because they got to bear it all sometimes,
Yes.
even like maybe bad financial decisions.
Yeah.
So I think there is a little bit of that sort of, not wanting to talk about it.
We do. We say kind of, especially when we're doing a plan, we talk about garbage in, garbage out. So like your plan is not going to be effective if you're not telling me everything.
Exactly. Right.
And unfortunately, it's not always comfortable conversations. I mean, I get more comfortable with it just because I'm in the business and it's something I have to deal with. But we also have that relationship with our clients where we make them feel comfortable enough that they can tell us these things. But I need to also relay that to the other, the accountant, the attorney that we're talking with. And sometimes they don't tell them that. So that you're right. I would say like a quarterback, because I need to relay that information then to make sure that their plan is as effective as we've been discussing.
So what is the most common, what would you say is the most common financial error that people make?
Is probably not having that plan in place. Some people just look at the investments, or they just go on a basic solution that they heard somewhere and they're like, okay, yeah, this is going to work for me. But it's not customized and it doesn't work for them. And you don't just, here's another, I guess, example of what we do in terms of like a financial architect. You don't have, when you're building a home and you have just a plot of land, you don't have someone come and say, okay, just build it. No, you first create the blueprints, then you create the foundation and you look at how you want to build it. Oh, I want this room to have that, this room to have that. No, I want this kind of floor. You don't just give someone leeway, especially when you're building your home. And so if you don't have that in place, the solutions may work for you that you've decided to do, but it's maybe kind of like throwing a dart at a dartboard and you don't know if it'll work. So the best thing to do is to create a plan and have that guide you.
What do you feel, is there an optimal age to start this process?
Again, I think starting to have financial literacy and financial education really needs to happen at a younger age, because when I was in college, the only reason I knew a little bit more about finance was because I took business as a personal business class. I learned a little bit more about filing taxes and all of those things and a budget. And then I went directly into finance. So I learned more about finance in general. But people in other majors don't seem to have that. And so one of the things I like to do with my clients is I always try to get their kids involved, especially when they're younger, to just start teaching them financial literacy. Maybe they're not there yet that they need to do a plan, but give them an idea to get there. So I definitely think as you're starting to enter the workplace, that's when it's most important. Like when you just graduated, you're about to enter the workforce, you may either go into business for yourself or you're going to work for corporate America. That's when you want to start really doing the planning and charting out.
I would say I would 100% agree with you on that financial literacy piece. And it's funny because in our space as insurance agents, the majority of us fall into this, right? We're not growing up thinking, I can't wait to sell insurance.
Yeah.
Most of us fall into it like I did, right?
Yeah.
My family decided to do this. My dad had a career change and I was dragged into it, kicking and screaming. I absolutely hated it. I was so mad. But also, nobody taught us how to run a business.
Yeah.
Right? Like my dad was just daring and smart. And he, everybody you make a couple mistakes. He was a little risky and he was willing to lose to win eventually. Right. And it worked for him. It worked very well. But like, the financial literacy, even of being a business owner, running a business, having staff, doing all of these things. Sometimes, we're just in this business because we're in it. Not that we know, we know the aspect of being insurance agents, not the aspect of running the business financially, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do these means? Like, how do I make decisions based off of what my numbers are telling me?
Yeah.
That's something that's not even taught to business owners now. Like, so the benefit of getting kids or teenagers, high school maybe, or
Yeah.
middle school involved in that. And I love that you get your children, your clients' children involved in it too. So that when they get to that age, it's not a foreign concept to have somebody reviewing their finances, right? They're used to it. That's what was done in their home.
Yeah.
So it's a common conversation. Sometimes these conversations about finances are also just so taboo.
They are. And they were more so back in the day. And I think it's getting better and better, especially as people get older. And we start telling people, like, you need to start getting your children involved, especially for the retirees. They need to know what's going on, especially on the health, the health stuff as well. They need to know what's going on and if they're going to take care of you. So I think people are becoming a little more open about it.
Yeah.
But definitely back in the day, they kind of held everything close to their chest.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that.
And it's like, and then when they die, you find out they have all these bank accounts and all these things. And then it's just, my family went through a terrible scenario with that. My grandparents had a lot of children, and it was just stuff went to probate. And it was that journey is the absolute worst.
Oh, yeah.
It is horrifying going through that. It took years. The emotional stress that puts on a family is horrifying.
Oh, I 100% agree. And that's why we talk about, when we're doing the planning, having everything organized and having everything coordinated. We actually had, at one of our economic outlooks a few years ago, maybe in like 2015, 2016, we had a client whose parent was kind of on their way out, and this is what they were dealing with. And so we actually had him present to the rest of our clients, and we titled it "The Mess You Leave Behind."
Oh, it's so good. Honestly, it's wild because at the time that it happened on my mom's side of the family, we were in insurance and we did personal lines insurance. And so we were helping people with their homeowners and things like that. And it made such an impact on us, what we went through, that we became like advocates for estate planning.
Yeah.
And I would be on the phone and I would hear a client say, oh, telling me that they have 2 children from a previous marriage. I didn't even care about their homeowners insurance. I'd be like, have you talked to an estate planner? Like, do you have a plan? Because you need to talk to someone, because you have 2 children from outside of marriage. You have children here. What happens when you die? And you have 3 houses.
Yeah.
Your family, if you want to protect your children, you need to talk to someone. Like, we were in a B&I at the time, and all I would do is just refer the estate planner. Like, just talk to them, educate yourself, because prevention is the estate planning world. Prevention is something that is so powerful.
And I think that's one of the parts of planning that people really don't pay attention to.
No.
And
that's also a very difficult conversation, right? Because if you're on a second marriage, you have children, and then you want those children to get something, not these children, or vice versa. And it creates problems.
It does.
It does.
And I'm not an attorney. I can't draft legal documents, but I work with the estate planning attorney, and we come up with the best strategies for my clients. And, that's one of the things is they will tell me things they don't always feel comfortable talking to an attorney about. Luckily, I work with attorneys that give the same confidence to my clients for them to open up. But it's something that they need to know, because you don't know, oh, yeah, he has kids from another marriage, or, their child is, maybe has some problems that they want to potentially put in spendthrift provisions or something to make sure that they're not going through the money very quickly and that they're responsible with it. These are things, there's so many family dynamics.
It's so complicated.
And every family is so different. It's so complicated. Every family is different. And so those are the things that need to be talked about. So we kind of create that open space for them. But there's so many times that someone has come into my office, and I do this even with my friends who have young kids, and they have no documents. They don't even have
who's going to take care of their child.
Who's going to take care of the child? My dad loves to tell this story of back when he was in New York, he had this client who was a doctor and had a heart attack. And the guy he was a lawyer. And he had a heart attack. And as he's going into the ambulance, he's trying to write on a napkin. And he didn't have anything himself. And it's so, you don't want other people to make these decisions for you. You really want them to be made by you.
It's twofold, right? It's like you want to make sure that your family's protected, that they get everything that you worked hard for. But some of those decisions could be controversial, or they don't want to have the hard conversations. I know in my culture, probably in yours, people are superstitious. You can't talk about it because then we're gonna die. Like it's such a complex area. And I know that you don't do estate planning, but I know that what you do is very involved in it. And being the good architect or the quarterback, like you have to treat that with care, because they're complicated, really heavy, emotional conversations.
Yeah. And in certain situations, I actually do ask the parents to kind of bring the child in.
That's why that's great.
And to like explain to them why they're doing what they're doing. And it's not anything, like against them, but it's to protect them.
Right.
And a lot of times you'll be surprised. The kids agree and they're like, yeah, do it that way. And they understand.
Right.
And then sometimes you have situations that it's not
catastrophic.
Yeah. And you can't tell the kids what's going to happen. But it is definitely something. And as life changes, like I said, you need to also update those documents.
Yep.
Back in the day when I was a kid, like my father or mother would trust me as their power of attorney or anything like that. But, as I've gotten older, as I'm in the business and I understand things and we've gone through different things as a family, they're a lot more trusting of us as adults. Sure. And they see our relationships with our spouses or anything like that. And that's how they'll make their decisions. But again, you have to kind of look at this just like a financial plan. You have to constantly.
Yeah, it's not a done and done.
Exactly. It's not done. And you have people who do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell me, what do you think is like one of the most overlooked or neglected areas in
which is what
the
we just
financing?
Talked about. It's honestly, it's estate planning.
It is. Yeah.
It is. Unfortunately, you have so many people who overlook that. And I really think that it needs to be done. It's like one of the things when I ask for documents from clients to look at for their financial plan, I always ask for a copy of their legal documents. And I just want to make sure that they have everything in order. And unfortunately, again, most people don't even have a basic will.
Oh, yeah, no. But I think the misconception of that, too, is that that's for rich people. Yeah. No,
and
that's for anybody that owns a property.
It's for if you own anything, not even if you own a property. I mean,
or if you have children.
If you have children, to talk about who will take care of the children.
Right.
Or like a living will, which is if you are in a vegetative state, how do you want to go out? That's you making these decisions, not having other people make the decisions for you.
One of the things that shocked me was that I feel like most parents don't think about is like when your child turns 18 and goes away to college.
Yes.
If they go to the hospital, you cannot call and they will not give you information.
No, they're considered an adult.
They're adults.
And it's the same thing with college in terms of like asking for your children's grades or any medical information about your child while they're at school. The child has to sign away a paper. I remember when I went to school, I had to sign a release allowing my parents to get information about me because they see you as an adult. So it's something that I started talking about with my clients because I'm like, I hope you do understand that, they may not technically be an adult and that they'd still live at home or they can't make the decisions. They're not in the workforce or anything like that. There's a student. But in the eyes of the law, they're an adult. And so if they end up in the hospital, the teacher's probably not going to talk to you. I'm like, the attorney will tell you a lot more. They'll describe every document to you, but you need to have a conversation with an attorney.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know, we answered that question backwards. But no, I'm like I said, I'm an advocate for that. It struck our family and it was very difficult and it was and it destroys the family outside of the money and the properties and all of that. It's just you lose family.
Yeah.
Right. So it's terrible. Let's talk about your business. How do you feel that your business has changed in the last couple of years?
Oh my God.
Drastically.
Drastically. I mean, before we had an office and all these people like demanded to come in to have a review over a phone call or a Zoom. There's no way. They were like, no way. I need to be in person. And post COVID, but also we're in this middle of this AI tech revolution. We've been able to save so much and become more profitable by utilizing it.
Right.
And
maximizing your time and efficiency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that people really need to pay attention to that and use it more, because you will get left behind. And my dad's favorite quote is kind of adapt to change.
Right.
You need to constantly be adapting. And now I have 80-year-old clients who don't want to come see me in an office. They would rather be on Zoom in their pajamas because that's more comfortable to them. They had to learn over the COVID period, if they wanted to talk to grandkids, that they had to do video chatting. And now they're learning, and I can share the screen with them. And it's just a lot easier for them and a lot more profitable for me to use all these technologies and to outsource certain things so that I have more time to be sitting in front of a client. And so, I mean, that's what I think has changed the most in this business landscape, is you really don't have to always be in person. You do have to utilize different technologies, because you may be taking more time to do something in person or in general, like by hand, than if you were to utilize that technology and get that done in 5 minutes, and you have more time to spend on something else.
Right. And in my space as well, it's there's always the people that fear, oh, AI is coming for our jobs. No, it's not. It's enhancing. It's enhancing. It's not taking our jobs in our space, which I'm sure in your space too. I'm not too familiar about in the financial world, but is there, like in our space, I guess it's fintech stuff in your space, right? Insurtechs, that these people were coming in to write insurance and they were going to get rid of the agent, and every single company that has tried has failed, because there is value in what we do. We get a risk and we underwrite it. A computer cannot do that. They could do some of it. They can make it faster. They can give us all of the benign information, right? Where I don't have to go looking for it. Sure. That's using it. And then we apply the human aspect, right?
Exactly.
So there was this big fear of, that we're getting cut out. No, we're not. Now, the agent that doesn't lean into it and the agent that doesn't utilize it to enhance their business, they may be cut out.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think it also depends on how you run your business, in terms of what kind of relationship are you building with that client? If it's so impersonal that they feel that they can go just use a technology, then
there's no value in you. Right.
But when I have a relationship that they feel they can tell me the things that they tell me, then that's also where I provide value. So, I mean, our relationship is so much more than just the technology and just the investment and just the planning. I mean, I hear clients hear the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, I have been there when clients are at the end of life, and I've been at the hospital. And I remember freshly postpartum, a client got really sick and was in the hospital and about to go into surgery. And I think I was 2 weeks into maternity leave, and I found my brother to watch my child, and I ran over there, and those are the things that I think our clients...
A computer can never do.
Exactly. And I think that's what our clients really value, is the personalization and the relationship that we have. And that was always what was really important to me in how I want to build my business. I really don't care so much for the superficial. Like, I want to know all the good, but I want to also, and so I cheer on every time my son is graduating. My son got into this college. Oh my God, my son is getting married. My daughter's getting married.
You're there for the milestones.
I'm there for the milestones, and I love it. I love hearing that a family is growing, and we now have 11 great grandchildren, and I love that. I really am happy to hear all of that.
It's interesting because, it's the same thing with us. The more connected we are virtually, the more disconnected we are in person, right? So when you are a person that prioritizes the relationships and the value, we're standing out. Right. If you think about it, in a world, and I would assume that it also matters on who your clients are, right? And that's, for example, the advantage of the technology. You can provide your personalized care via technology now.
Oh yeah.
So it's like that's where the technology fits into this new version of business, right? It's not replacing the connections. It's not replacing the human interaction, the showing you care, but it's aiding it. It's just making it easier. And so it's like, I feel there's just people on both sides, right? There's the people that have robots picking up the phone, which I guess if you're working with 20-year-olds, maybe that's okay.
Or if you're a very large corporation.
Maybe.
But
but a small business, for me, that's not what I would want. That's not, I always, when I make decisions here in my agency, I think to myself, how would I want to be treated as a consumer? So if I was the one shopping insurance for my business, would I want to call someplace that I have a phone tree? No, I would not want that.
I mean, how many times do you scream representative?
You want to know the worst version of myself? Just, screaming at one of those things?
You press 0, usually
Operator.
0 works and it doesn't work. And then you're like, representative.
100%. I would go somewhere else.
I hate that.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating because you're not getting to the person that you really want to speak with. And so, yeah, we have someone answering our phone, but it's right away directed to us.
Absolutely. Same. So there's ways to do that, and where it could be more efficient for us, right? We're not spending the day answering the phone. We can't.
Exactly.
But there's still a human touch, a sense of care, especially what you do. It's so sensitive, right? Your hands are in the most sensitive parts of people's lives, right?
Yeah.
With their money. You're dealing with their money. They want to talk to you. They want to know that you're accessible. It's like me, right? Nobody likes insurance. Nobody wants to buy insurance. Nobody loves talking to me, right? Yeah. But when they know that they're helping a local small business woman that's 40 and trying to grow a business, they care. And they might spend a couple dollars more, but they care because I care. I'm working on an account now that I hope I get. It's effective 6/9, and she's with an insurance broker that her insurance doubled. And they're not giving them any options, unresponsive, and it's a huge agency that they're with. And I told her yesterday, listen, I have family that works at these types of agencies. You're just a small fish in their big pond.
Yeah.
I am a small business. I know what it feels like. I am the owner of this agency. You just called here and I picked up the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have access to me.
Oh, yeah.
It matters.
And my clients have my cell phone number.
It matters.
I used to tell them, you could call me at 2 in the morning. My dad's like, stop telling them.
Yeah, because one day someone's going to do that. Yeah, it's true. But but that's even funny that you say that, because I feel like at a certain point in time, that it equaled good customer service, being accessible 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true anymore.
No, I had a client actually that sent me an email at like 9:45, and I was about to go to bed, but I'm like, it's an easy email. Let me answer it. And I answered it. And then I called him the next day to follow up. And he's like, Nicole, do you sleep? And I was like, yes, of course. And he was like, you didn't have to email me right away. You could have emailed me tomorrow. And I'm like, I know, but it was simple and I was going to sleep. So I figured I'll just email you. But yeah, I mean. And
even that concept, though, of like what equates good customer service at a time, it was just always being accessible. You can call me whenever you want. I'm available for you. But I don't even think that it's that anymore. I think customer service standards are so low that really just returning a phone call, even if it's 24 hours later, you're a hero, right? Isn't that wild?
Yeah, even to just get to you directly. Like, they don't have to yell representative. That is. And you know what? I actually was at a networking lunch with someone the other day, and we both had that in common. Like, we prefer that. And he was like, yeah, I think we're going to enjoy working together, because
absolutely,
when I want to send someone to an advisor or refer to anybody, I want that kind of service.
You want it to be equal. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I appreciate about what you do too is the level of trust that people have in you. So they trust your referrals. If you tell them work with this person, they're gonna do it because they trust you. Again, they trust you with the most vulnerable thing that they have, right? All of their money secrets. They're gonna trust you with work with this professional, work with that so you have to present them with people equal or better. Right?
Exactly. And, that's why it's so important for me in my networking and getting out there, is kind of making sure that I am aligned with the people that I'm sending to my clients. Because if my clients enjoy working with me and my personality, I want to make sure that they're going to someone that will give them the same level of service. I don't want to just give them a random name.
Right.
So it's really important to me to build that relationship as well. And honestly, from the people that I've been meeting through Miss Esquire, through Daily Drip, everybody seems to just, we align so well that I have built friendships now out of this. And I think that's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Tell me about your networking. Let's talk a little bit about that. What's your best advice for someone getting started? Maybe career-wise, like joining a corporation, or maybe a business owner that's just starting and is overwhelmed by networking. What are your best tips?
It is overwhelming.
It is honestly, and I think post-COVID it's even more overwhelming. I feel like we were locked up and then everything opened up and everybody just ran to do everything. So now I was one of those. And so I think I was just so excited to see people again. And now I'm drained.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm scaled back.
And that's why I kind of looked for specific types of networking. So when I first started, and after even having my son, like I was like, let me just go to all those networking events that I see available.
Right.
And try to do ones that are geared more towards advisors or accountants or things like that, people that I work with normally. And unfortunately, it's not that those are bad, but I don't know that you always develop that true connection with people there. And sometimes you just get a card and nobody follows up.
Mm-hmm.
And I am in a very male-dominated field. You as well.
100%.
And so most of the time you just see so many males, and it just felt, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was the best fit for me. And I still go here and there. But then I had, with one of the estate planning attorneys I work with that you know too, Miss Haneen.
Yes.
So shout out to Haneen.
She's great.
For this.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So I met up with her, and we had been working together for years. And I said to her, because she just became a business partner,
Mm-hmm.
After working for other law firms. And so I said, so Haneen, what are you guys doing to build your business? Like, what kind of groups are you going to that work? My son, was about to start school, and I decided that I'm going to put myself out there. I said, it is very scary and it's overwhelming, but I need to do this. Mm-hmm. And so she told me about Miss Esquire. And so she told me about it months before I decided to give myself that promise. And I decided to, in January, I'm like, you know what, let me email them. And I went on their website and I just kind of read about what it's about. And I really loved the message. And so I went as a guest to their West Palm chapter. And I really liked it. And I met some really wonderful people that day. And it's really funny because you're right, my clients do trust me. And so they'll ask me for people, not just for attorneys and accountants, but different types of attorneys. And the next day I get a call from a client saying, do you know anybody in employment law, or do you know anybody in real estate law in regards to a tenant dispute? And before Miss Esquire, no, I didn't. I didn't. So I actually really went with the intention of meeting people that could help me in terms of building my business, as me giving my clients more options when they ask me those questions, because I didn't have those people before. So I went with that intention, but it just seemed to blossom. I really loved it. And so I signed up and the next month I started at Boca, and I've connected so well with some of those people. Like I said, some of these people have become friends. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started. And then
I think what you just said, sorry to interrupt, but it's key, and I want to talk about that, because I think one of the mistakes that people make with networking, especially if you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You're doing everything, right, in the business if you're a business owner and you're deciding to network. And I think it's like you go thinking like, what's going to be my ROI of this event? Like, what's the point? Like, if I have to pay, like, how much business am I going to get out of it? You approach networking with the intent of building your own network of professionals, so you are a resource for your clients. It's not, you never said it's not to grow my business. It's not to go make more money. And eventually that comes.
Yeah, and that's really nice of that.
That's nice, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Exactly. Eventually, we all want to make money and grow our businesses. That's why we're here. But the intention behind it, I think it's also, you can tell at a networking event when someone's just there to spam you with business cards, and they're going to send you an email and just add you to their list, right? Like, you can tell if you show up at a networking event and it's truly to make connections. You're going thinking, how can I be a better resource for my clients? Yep. That is powerful, and that is the right intention of going, and that's why you come across genuine, because it's not about you.
Oh, and then one of the women that I met, I mean, we have those boss lunches, and so one of the professionals in that group, I mean, her and I were there for like 3 hours. Like, the conversation just flowed. And that's kind of what I'm looking for when I do send someone. I want someone who is as genuine as I am and will really take care of my clients, because I care so much about them. And then, through them, I kind of heard about the Daily Drip. And I kind of knew about the Daily Drip just because I happened to know Nicole's sister-in-laws. And so I went to one of their events that Miss Esquire posted about. And I really loved what they did as well in their community. And that one was really nice because it's not technically networking,
right,
but you do end up networking. Right. I mean, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
We literally met on a Daily Drip beach walk.
Right.
Like, we were not.
The least business
thing. Exactly.
On a Sunday morning. You know?
I know. And we were just talking about, not just about business, we were talking about other things and just talking about being the women that we are. And so, and we created that relationship. And now I'm like, and then you happen to also be in Miss Esquire. And I'm like, this is just too funny. Like it's so intertwined, but I really felt that connection with you. And then I saw you last night. And so like, it's really nice. And I feel like I am meeting people through that. And I think I decided that those are where I'm going to focus it, nurture those relationships and instead of trying to be all over.
So the worst thing I would say to anybody getting starting in networking is going without a plan, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, if you know you're going to a networking event, try to research who's attending, who's throwing it, right? Identify a couple people that you'd want to meet, not because you're trying to get their business, but because you need to establish a relationship, because you want to be a better resource for your clients. Maybe you want to get involved in a nonprofit, you don't know which one. Go. It is I don't know if you've ever been a part of a B&I.
No.
I was in several, and it worked for us, right? But it's very rigid. It's a weekly meeting, very early in the mornings usually. You have to bring a referral every single week. It's intense.
Yeah, that sounds rigid.
It's intense. But honestly, the concept of it, of giver's gain, it is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Exactly. That's their theory. And when you give, there's no way you're not going to get.
Yeah.
And it's true.
And honestly, one of the things that I do feel like I approach when I am creating that connection is not so much me. It's actually, how can I help your business? Is there something that you feel that I can do to help? Whether it's giving an idea of how, okay, you're running it this way. What about doing something like this? Or, what kind of clients are you looking for? If you give, it will come back to you. Exactly.
It's the law of life.
Exactly.
And everything.
And sometimes it's not even, I've noticed in the relationships I'm developing, it's not always about giving a client.
Right.
Sometimes they actually connect me to someone else that could really benefit my clients or help me. And so that was something that's really important too. Sometimes it's also just connection. So for me, it's kind of staying in the two groups that I truly enjoy.
I was going to say that too. Like sometimes it's a piece of and maybe this goes back to what we were talking about off camera, about the difference generationally about the women our moms were versus us. I think that I don't want to network. I don't want to belong to any networking group that I don't like.
Exactly.
I don't, if I'm going to spend time and money and I'm going to build relationships, I want to build relationships with people that I enjoy, that if it wasn't for work, I would still be around.
Exactly.
I want to be around people that I like.
I told you, I'm like, we literally had a play date with someone I met from Miss Esquire. Yeah. We have kids the same age.
I think that matters. It's important to us to, if we're working hard, because we already are, we might as well work hard with people that we enjoy being around.
Yeah. And I do think one of the things that, for me, again, it may be different for someone else, but for me, in my business and in general, I think it's really important to support women, especially because we're the underdogs in this business. And so, and in a lot of businesses that I've met, the women feel like they're the underdog.
I think that's why Miss Esquire is so great, because I realized, one of the things I realized early on of Miss Esquire, I said, oh, there's a lot of entrepreneurs here. Yeah. So not they all, but the majority of them become attorneys. They think they want big law. They go work. They might be a partner. They might be an associate. They get work to the ground, typically in firms ran by men. I forgot who it was that told me that they worked at a firm where they could not leave if the partners didn't leave. What? Like, if the partners were there till 10, you had to be there till 10. You weren't leaving at 6. And a lot of them just got fed up and went out on their own and started their own law firms. And I am so empowered by that. Yeah. Like, I don't know about your chapter, but
oh no,
the majority of my chapter, they're on their own
business. Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I've ever been around so many women business owners.
Yeah. And they do allow men too, but
oh yeah.
But it is majority female, and they're very about
and they're
empowering each other. Yes. And they want to, give resources, and they don't gatekeep.
No.
They're open to telling. It's not so much, oh, you're my competition. It's they're willing to open up and give you ideas that could help your business grow.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's really important, and I love that.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you on the propelling the women, right? Like, if there was to be a new financial, planner that comes around that needs mentorship, right? Yeah. Automatically, and you're the type that would take her under your wing.
Oh yeah,
instantly, right? Stuff like that. There's not a lot of. I actually interviewed. She is an employment attorney. She's in the Miami chapter. Her name is Suhail. Great episode, and we talked about that because she's super, super, super big on empowering women in law.
Yeah,
and it's I'm sure all women, but just in general, like she pours into a lot of women attorneys because they're intimidated when they come out of, and they think that their trajectory is always the same, right? Well, you're going to go work at a law firm, until you get a status. It doesn't have to be that way anymore.
No. And you know what, especially in the finance world, you come from like this background where men always dealt with everything. Mm-hmm. And so when I first started in the business, you had women coming in and they were like, my husband passed away and he handled everything. I'm just relearning everything. And that kind of got to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to really help women and, get them further and make that, make sure that they feel that they're financially independent. And, if they have a partner, that's just kind of icing on the cupcake.
Right. Absolutely.
That they'll be okay. And even if they're in a relationship, that if something, God forbid, happens, that they're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important to me, always empowering women. And I love that about the Daily Drip too. And I had this conversation with my father actually about, where do we want the business to go? And if it becomes where we have a lot of influx of new clients and it becomes too much, I said, you know what? I think that if I were to hire another advisor, I actually would want it to be a female. And I think that females are also like so open to listening. And I think that comes with the personal touch that we give our clients. Like they're willing to listen and hear what's going on in your life or what you have to say and make sure you feel heard.
The empathy that we have that comes naturally is a gift.
So
absolutely.
I definitely think I would have a woman coming into my office and I would totally take her under my wing.
That's awesome. Tell me about your favorite book. Tell me about a book that has impacted you.
So
that you've read that has developed you for you personally or your career.
So it's kind of both. Mm-hmm. And it's not like what people would think. They would maybe think that I was reading like a financial book on like how to have a successful business or how to this. It's actually a book that me, my father, and my little brother read. We all cried reading it when I was like a teenager. And it kind of somehow ended up in my family, and I'll explain that. But it's called The Art of Racing in the Rain. And they kind of turned it into a movie a few years ago with, I don't know how to say his last name, Milo Ventimiglia.
Oh, Ventimiglia? Yeah. Love him.
So the story is kind of told by the dog's point of view and his life with his owner. But I think what got me was the owner goes through something really tragic and is fighting to keep his family together. And you see the difficulties while he's also trying to build his career as a race car driver and like chase that dream. And so he has this struggle, and to see him overcome it and fight so hard for his family. And so the themes there are overcoming the obstacles that are you're put through in life, and also the importance of family, because I think family is such an important thing. And that's what I talk about with clients as well. So that kind of helped me personally and professionally. It kind of gave me the idea of how I want to be with my clients.
And that's awesome. That's awesome that it impacted you so young. That you got it, you read it so early in life, right? So it was like a pivotal moment where you could apply it.
Oh, yeah. And that's how I kind of came up with how I would want to name my child in the future. And that's because in the book, the dog's name is Enzo. And it's named after Enzo Ferrari, which I didn't realize until I met my husband. He's like, yes, that's why. And I'm like, I love that name. And my husband's like, yes, we're going to name our child after Enzo Ferrari. So my son is named Enzo.
I love that.
But that book, it's like, if you ever ask me about one of my favorite, that is the book. And my little brother will say the same thing. I'm going to steal the name from you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Can you touch a little bit, because I know you've mentioned it a couple times, about the dynamic of working with family, because I worked with my family too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give us some tips on anybody that's, working with family, and it's because it can be tough.
It can be tough. it doesn't feel tough with my father. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I joke that we're like 90% the same person, but him and I just get along so well. And you really don't see any clashing of the heads because we think a lot alike. So we really work as a team. And like when we're doing plans, like he'll have me look over something, I'll have him look over something. And we want it to be interchangeable for our clients. So if one of us is traveling,
Sure, they feel comfortable.
They feel comfortable, even though nowadays, I mean, I can work while I'm traveling.
Right.
But it was definitely interesting in the beginning. And he had a fear about, was he going to coddle me or anything like that? And I had a fear, that's the one thing I think when you're working with family that you kind of worry about is like, am I doing the best that I can? Am I or you're comparing yourself to your parents and this is the success that they've had. And I worked on that for myself when I was going through like a mental and physical change because I physically changed a lot. And it's just helped me that, okay, I'm not going to be him and I can't be him, but I can be just as good, if not better. And so he has seen the change in me and he's like, yeah, I'm not worried.
That's great. Do your brothers work in the
My
business?
brothers don't work in the business.
That's so funny because in my family, when we started insurance, my brother didn't work with us. It was me and my parents. And for us, I was very upset.
Yeah.
I was going to the Art Institute for interior design. I was so upset that they pulled me out. I didn't get a scholarship, so that's my fault. And they couldn't afford to send me anymore. They had opened a business from scratch. And my dad was like, listen, when we get up and running again, like when we're doing good, we'll send you back. Well, that never happened. And he was right. I think one of the best things in my life that has saved, not that the relationship has ever been in turmoil, but like my dad has just always been right.
Yeah.
I recognize that he's always right. It does not matter if he doesn't know a lot about the subject. He's always right. I don't know how. So it took me a while to appreciate it though, because I went through a very small rebellious phase of like, I'm so sick and tired of him telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Right. But he was always right. And I learned very quickly, like, you might as well just let him make your decisions because he's not wrong. He's never going to steer you wrong. Right. Yeah. So I worked with him. I didn't love insurance. I stuck it out. Well, there was one time where I was ready to quit. I was like, I'm done. I hate this.
Yeah.
And I think that for us, I was young. I was early, maybe not even mid-20s. And I was living at home, working with him. The business was starting. And I realized that we didn't shut off.
Oh, yeah. It's
work
hard.
And dad time. Like, and then we finally had a conversation and I was like, listen, when we leave the office, I just want you to be my dad again.
Yeah.
Like work, dad. And then when we finally like drew the line in the sand, it all worked out. And now we talk about work all the time, or when he's here, we talk, we have fun, not work, now we can blend it, but I'm also older. I'm enjoying what I do. It's different. But my brother he worked with us for a very small amount of time. And then when we were selling, he was like, guys, I think I'm going to get into insurance. And we're like, well, we're selling. So, and so when we opened this, we were like, hey, if you want to come on and kind of the same thing, like, listen, if you're going to get into this industry, go work somewhere else, learn it from somewhere else. Also, you could teach us stuff. We've always just done it the way we do it. Right.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting a job somewhere. He loves it. And he works in insurance now for another agency and it's fine. And like our family dynamic is great, but it's interesting because sometimes it's tough. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough. And I think that for me, one of the biggest blessings, and I'm sure you can agree, is that like I have spent an abnormal amount of time with my parents as an adult. Right? Right?
I'm with them every day.
Every day. And I know it sounds like it's overwhelming, but we have boundaries in our lives and stuff. And it's just so wonderful. Like my parents are my friends.
Oh, my parents are my best friends.
Best friends. I go like my mom makes us meal lunch every day that I don't have a lunch. Like it is such a blessing to me now. And as I see them age, I'm just like, the fact that I get to spend so much time with them is a blessing.
Oh, 100%. And for me, so similar, and I'll come back to what I was about to say, but similar. So my brothers didn't want to be in it. And honestly, I never thought I would.
Right.
And my mom works with us too. And my dad jokes that he's tried to fire her before, but she won't be.
And we're like begging my mom. My dad's like, you don't want to answer the phone for your daughter? You don't want to help your daughter? And he's like, no. She's just like, no.
No, I'm okay. But when I was in college, I always knew that I wanted to help people. That was something that was really, really important to me. And I didn't know how I was going to help people, but I wanted to help. We had done like campaigns when we went to Brazil called Project Santa Claus, where we would bring like food and toys to like the poor on the streets, because we wanted them to have something. Like, we are just those kind of people. And so I always knew I wanted to help. And I started in psych and business because I always felt that they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to be a psychologist. And so my dad and I you'll get varying stories about how this happened, depending on who you ask.
Right.
So what I will say is that he used to make comments, and he used to be like, you would be so good in my business. See, like, you did that. You would be so good. Like, you would fit. And I'm just like, no. And then my dad will say that I just called him crying 2 years into college, which I did. But he's like, you just called me 2 years crying, feeling lost, not knowing what you wanted to do. And I just told you, I always said that you would be good in this business. So why don't you come work with me? And I'm like, no, you just kept putting it in my head. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll try it out and see if it works. So I went that route. And then I thought I was going to start right away in his office. And he was like, no, why don't you do what I did 30 years ago and start also in insurance? And I went, and I'm like, this is not for me. This is not for me. Like, I think insurance is needed, but I didn't feel that that was like what I wanted to do.
It's also a different sales model. Yeah.
And nothing, like I said, nothing against it. It is needed. It's part of planning and everything, but it didn't work the way I work. And so I was like, you need to bring me back. Like, you need to put me in your office. I don't want to do this. And I questioned whether I would enjoy this career, because I was like, if that was my experience, am I really going to enjoy this? And then I started sitting in and shadowing him. And I was like, yep, I'm home. Honey, I'm home. Like,
yeah, that's great.
This is what I want to do. And I could see the way he helped people. I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I've wanted all along. And so
he was right.
He was right.
They're always right.
They're always right. And he laughs because, like, we'll come home and I was just having a conversation with someone, and they're not a client, they're not even a prospect. We're a friend, and we're just talking, and I'm just telling them about something. And like, I come home smiling, telling my dad about it, and he's like, so how much do you love this business? I love it.
That's amazing.
I love it. But it can be hard.
Sure.
And I do see them every day, and I love it. I mean, I would say the thing that I love about seeing them every day is, when you come from immigrant parents, I got to travel a lot because of that. But at the same time, they were the only ones here. And so all of my family from my mom's side is in her home country of Brazil. And all of my dad's side is in his home country of Israel. And as I love my grandparents, and we are close. I'm very close to them too. But I didn't get to see them that often. And if God forbid something happens, I mean, it's going to take a 10-hour plane ride to Brazil or a 15-hour plane ride to Israel. And I don't know that I would get there in time. And that always was really difficult for me, that I didn't get to see them as often. Like, I saw them like 2 to 3 times a year. And my parents are very close with their parents. And so I always said, when I grew up and when I had kids and I had a family, like, I don't want to be far. So I love that I even live like 2.5 miles from them. Like, I can walk to their house. And so
that's great for your children to grow up with their grandparents.
And I appreciate it so much, and I don't think my kids understand.
Not yet.
They don't. And I've taken them to those countries. But I hope that they truly understand, like, how blessed they are to have their grandparents, because my mother-in-law is also with us all the time. She lives with me. And so my kids don't realize it yet, but they are so lucky.
They will.
And so that's why I think I try to spend also as much time as them. Like, my little brother doesn't live here. He lives in Texas, and I love where he lives. And I was like, if mom and dad were willing to move, I would totally move here. And so he's trying to convince me to move there. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you convince me.
Right.
You've got to convince mom and dad. I'm like, because I'm not leaving their side.
Right.
Like, I will be, whether we work together or not, like, they are my best friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I would do without them. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And, having a family like that just makes you better at what you do. Right. Because it revolves around love and care. It's more than business. It's more than clients. It's, a way of life, honestly. It's like if you live that way, it comes through. It's like it's who you authentically are.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You don't have to try to be something you're not.
And I do think some people actually really enjoy it. It's kind of going down the family line. And some of our clients, because my dad has been working with them for so long, a lot of them actually watched me grow up. Because we used to do end of the years parties, and I would work the front and give them name tags, and they're like, Nicole? They hadn't seen me in 2 years. They're like, oh my God, you're joining the business. I love this. It's really, it's so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling. It really is.
I love that. Listen, we got to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
For hours.
But
Thank you so
that's
much.
what I mean when I talk about networking and having people that I truly enjoy.
It's just, I feel like we spoke about this yesterday after the Daily Drip event. My friend that I brought, Heather, and Dee, we went to dinner to grab a quick bite, and we talked about that. She was talking about one of her coworkers that is a rock star at work, but she's afraid of networking.
Yeah.
And I said, I think people are intimidated by it because there's such a stigma of they feel like they have to be someone they're not. Yeah. And it's actually the opposite. Just be yourself, right? Yeah. It's actually the exact opposite. Don't go with the front. Just be who you are. And then people will love you.
Exactly.
It's the hack.
People that don't, I don't know if that's the people you want to work with.
You don't want to work with them. It's fine. You got to do business with people like, and trust.
Exactly.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this.
Where can people find you?
So they can go to wiseoakwealth.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, and they can call me at 561-621-7100. And my email is nicole@wiseoakwm.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll definitely have you back.
Oh, yes. I would love to be back. Thank you.